Hello and welcome. My name's Campbell. This is Autodidactic Channel. Hope you're having a spectacular day and thank you for joining me. And of course, autodidactic means to be self-educated. And if we've learned anything in the last couple of years to flatten the curve, we've learned that we definitely need to be self-educated in this life. Or else the only choice we have left is to believe what other people tell us. And we are seeing in real time what that can do. So today I've got a book, and this is from 1904. It has photos from sort of the late 1880s to 1904 in it. And the title is Photo Album from Germany, England, Scotland, Russia by Don Delamalay in 1904. So let's jump in and have a look at the old world 118 years ago. Okay, now here we are in Germany, I believe, and in the background here we have, this is the Cologne Cathedral, which is still there. I've looked at this before, a few people have. It's a very amazing building and very oversized, as you can see, in this cityscape, as well as this big round tower. I'm not sure what that is. It could be like a big turret, what we call, big castle turret tower, water tower. Who knows? And look at the amount of belfries we've got here. Everywhere. This looks like some kind of plasma chamber, this one. Spires everywhere. Little balls on them, of course. Domes. And look at this in the foreground. Look at this thing. And of course, a bit of scaffolding here, right? Because they're building it. It's a construction photo. As we know, right? They always construct buildings that are already fully built. So of course, what they're doing is they're defacing, really. They go in, they rip all the old, facade off, all the old, symbols and signs and everything, and then they replace it with their own. And basically take charge, right? Take charge of the building. Of course, these were free energy buildings. And look at this. So this here, again, two like twin towers, twin poles. This has it as well, the Cologne Cathedral. So I'm guessing this is Cologne, right? In Germany. There's nothing written on the photo. And here's another shot. Now, this is that round tower we could see. So I'm not sure what that's for. You see this design, a lot. These sort of round buildings, round towers with the roofs that are sectional, like this. Yeah, they're everywhere. These windows in the roofs, right? They're everywhere, and they look like shutters, right? So you lift them up during the day and shut them down at night, which means basically they were levels, right? There's a window there. So, these roofs were, they're, quite a high pitch, which is a good idea, right? It keeps the water out easier. So they were obviously using those as living spaces as well. And today, right, we built these silly low roofs and even flat roofs with no crawl space. And it's literally just a crawl space. We don't utilize that space. It's just basically a heat trap, right? So different way of looking at things. Of course, massive oversized buildings in the background, and down here we have a couple of gents having a chat. And look at this, there's even a building down. Look at this, is it the roof level? It's about the same level as this bridge. That's why not, right? Sunken building. There's an arch there too, so maybe there's a canal down here And that's right on the shoreline. Because this is obviously a bridge, and again, right? Lamp on a bridge. Where's the wiring? Who put the wiring in? Because this is around 1900, so electricity is pretty new. Who put the wiring in? If it's not electric, where's the gas? Where's the gas bottle? Where are the gas lines? They don't make sense, those lights. Another shot of, I'm guessing Cologne in Germany, definitely in Germany, the canals. And they always do these, right? They have these sort of pointy constructions when they're splitting the current, right? Split the current, splitting the river, just to help it flow better. Can't see if there's one on there, but you know, these buildings built across, you know, bridges all across the canals, you know, they're everywhere in the old world as well. And of course, these are just, you know, roads, right? Throughways for the boats on the canals. And here we have everyone, you know, living at these buildings, right? Right on top of the wall, the man-made wall going into the man-made canal. Because this is a man-made canal. This is not what we're told is a river. This is man-made. And, you know, looking a bit old, these buildings. I wish I could zoom in more. I think there's someone standing there. They've got a nice little view. And even this, right, cantilever it out just to make it more difficult, and literally built into the wall that is the canal wall. And we see that so often. Here's the next one. Just, you know, again, showing us these are all man-made canals. Now this, look, arches under here. So that was obviously a throughway, or, you know, a way to get into this house, maybe like a boat garage. Because of course, you know, these were used for transport, these canals. But see this, I'm not sure, is this retrofitting? This that's covering up these, half covering up these arches. Who knows? Look at these windows in this, what looks like a, you know, part of the canal wall, isn't it? I mean, you can kind of see where they've built on. But yeah, houses are literally built on the canal walls. Big towers everywhere. Why not? Of course, again, very aged, and red brick. Okay, so this is, you know, pretty interesting, right? Because you can see, like, they've gone and put, there's this big, you know, facade of big block work, but underneath where it's come off, that's bricks. So does that mean that this is just a facade and this is all bricks under here? You know, is this just done for, you know, is this just done for looks? And of course, it looks like, you know, there's rooms in there. I don't know if it's a house, but there's something in there. And again, houses across the canal, across the bridge. And they could probably do that because they weren't, you know, this was the roads underneath the canals, and they had their tramway systems and that. And no doubt there would have been walkways, but they seem to have a completely different and completely set up transport system. And again, cantilevered out over the water, just to make it hard. And look how old this is, how weathered it looks. So pretty good pick, that one. And of course, you know, this, look at the roof line here. Look at this, all the different angles. And you know, to do that is pretty hard, especially to make this thing waterproof. I mean, again, they just, from our point of view, they kind of do things the hardest way possible. Like, because this whole floor, look at that again. That's all cantilevered out. Still in Germany. Man-made island here in the canal. Islands in the stream. And again, very old looking building. Yep, we can see up here, you can see there's brick. So this is probably the same tower. There's definitely brick there. And down here, you can see they've done a bit of a, you know, really bad patch job. Is that just to cover up the fact that there's bricks there? Maybe they thought this is too high and they won't see it, or they'll think it's just an add-on. Because look at how old these weather stains are. And I mean, look at this building, just, you know, sitting up there. just, you know, suspended between two other buildings. Why not? And this is very telling, this building here. I mean, apart from the fact that, you know, it goes right into the canal. We've got windows here. And it's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5-story, 6-story building, not including this bottom bit. Brick, you know, again, you know, this is probably facading, and see, you know, maybe this is bigger block work down here, but it looks like everything on top is literally brick that's been facaded. And so this massive structure, and what do we have here? They've built the little dock, and it's just a couple of bits of wood and a little wooden ladder. So, you know, they can build man-made canals and these massive structures right on the canal walls. And this is their dock. Like, come on. And this even looks like it's corrugated iron or something. Maybe it's wooden. And this whole front, again, you know, this is like, they try and tell us the Bavarian style, right? Where they have these high-pitched roofs and they have wood mixed with brick. But if you look here, you can see that this, you know, the floor level on this floor comes out here to the corner and across the front. Well, that's a beam there, but it comes right out. So I'd say this is, you know, there's a floor in there that's part of this old world structure, and they've just facaded this wood on the front. You know, it's just facading. It's all it is, because look at the building. It's clearly, you know, it's not structural, is it? This is just very cool. And of course, Antiquitech, right? And here's another shot. Looks like we're still in the same city. Nice big tower here. And I mean, just, yeah, it's just wall to wall, built in, you know, all 5, 6-story buildings higher up here, Antiquitech, belfries, you know, antennas, the whole thing. And again, is this facading? I wonder. Because it's interesting how they do it, and it's flat, and some of them protrude out, like, you know, they're uncut, unmachined. But look down here. See, these stick out, and look, they've clearly done some patchwork or something here. Looks like there's a crack there, maybe that had fallen in. So who knows? But, you know, the blocks, they don't look like blocks, really. I don't know. It looks different to this, doesn't it? Maybe it's been smoothed off and rendered over, who knows? But, and again, a wooden building, a little wooden add-on to make it look Bavarian. Okay, so here we are. Now this, again, this isn't marked, this photo. I think we're still in Germany. I'm not sure if you know, this church or this cathedral, let me know. Basically, you know, it says London, Scotland, Germany, and Russia. So I don't think this is in Scotland. It may be. But I mean, look at this thing. Got all our statues here, all our kings and things. And how much like a cathedral does this look? It's got all the features. Because why? Because they're not cathedral features. They're free energy tech features. I mean, look at this thing. Of course, on the top, it's not a free energy antenna. It's a flagpole because it has a flag. Now I noticed this frontage. This is added on because you can see the roof is, you know, flat. So this is like added to the front, this step design, and you see it a lot in sort of Holland and Belgium, that kind of region. So I'm not sure what it does or what it means, but it's definitely a feature of a lot of architecture. You know, these just random bits that they just sort of tack on, but you know, tack on, right? Just part of the building, but they look like they've just been put there. You know, but this is probably a, you know, 1,000-year-old building. This thing is ridiculous. More spires, free energy, and then this. And again, look at the tech of the people of the day. I mean, this dude's happy, right? Doing his happy pose lean on his little wooden cart, and that's his shop. And look what's in the background. Apart from the size, I mean, just look at this. It's just ridiculous. And of course, got everything, right? The antenna, you know, if there is mercury in these balls, then mercury amplifies signal. You know, copper dome might be a resonator. You know, this could be a spark gap. It's basically to increase the charge. And then down into all this stuff, which I don't know, these like Wi-Fi antennas or something, sending out to these places or to the houses. Who knows? We are getting there though. We're starting to work out how this all worked. And we will get there. Okay, another one. And again, you can see they've been in patching this one up. Oh, water feature with all this antiquity-ness on the top. Is that, you know, to fractalize the water, or is the water somehow coming through this thing and getting charged? Because of course that's straight underneath it. Up here, look, we've got our balls everywhere. So, you know, these are from the people from the ball religion, right? Because it's got to be a flag or a religious symbol if it's on a spire. Of course. And up here again, patchwork. Look at this. Arched window, right? Taken it out, replaced it with a square window. Again, to change, look, this pattern of windows, right, with this glasswork. Again, we're sort of told that's German, right? Bavarian. But clearly, look, taking out arched windows there again. Look at this. Look at this. So this has been fully refacaded. You can see the bricks there. Yep, on the top as well. See? So when was this done? So they've filled all the windows in squares. So, you know, I mean, if this wasn't standing there for a few hundred years, you would think, well, if they were windows, they'd be broken out. Why they couldn't, they didn't have the tech to even build an arch window. They could only build rectangles. But I mean, there you go, right? That's proof positive. They've gone in and they've changed the look of this building. Put their artwork on it, patched it up. Yep, we built this. A little angel with a bit of tech on top. Who knows what all this stuff did. Windows going into the ground, of course. And here's our tech of the day. The motors, right? Is that a really hairy horse? Don't know. But it is a horse, of course. Okay, this one is now marked London from Tower Bridge. So now we're in London. Okay, we get all these boats. That looks like a steamer, but it's got sail, well, you know, masts. Man-made shorelines, of course. It looks like the water's a bit low here, but man-made out of bricks. Oh, look at that, filled in arch, right? Closing up all the traffic ways, you know, so now we have to pay to use their trams and their petrol cars and stuff. And wood, right? Wood, that's what they're collecting. But apparently they built all of this. Look at that for a cityscape. London, 19 or, you know, circa 1900. Look at this. I mean, just spires everywhere. It's a very inspiring picture. I mean, and just built right to the, again, right on the man-made canals edge. Because of course, right, man-made edges. Look at this thing. I'm not sure what building this is. Not from London, but that's massive. I mean, just everywhere, right? And I mean, look how big that is and all this. And then you see this dome in the background that even dwarfs this, and this is way in the background. Look at this shed or building or whatever it is. Look at the size of that. Is that the Crystal Palace? Because that thing is huge. I mean, we could not build a city like this today. Another one, the Tower of London from the Thames. And this is interesting because this is London. But I mean, look at this shot, you know, with this big Moorish building here and the sails, right, that we're told are, you know, sort of Middle Eastern or Islamic on the Thames. And looks like they've had a good catch. That's a net. If that's full of fish, that's a lot of fish. Might be seaweed or something, don't know, but that's, yeah, they're doing well. But yeah, I mean, you could tell someone this was the Middle East and they'd believe you. But another interesting feature, apart from all the tech here, is this Moorish building, like right next to, you know, these castles. So this is literally what we're told is London, UK, English architecture, right? The castles next to Islamic, like literally next to it, next door. And they can only explain that, they, you know, through like revisionist movements. They say, oh no, the architects were just, you know, inspired by the Moorish architecture or the Islamic architecture. And so they just built one of those buildings there. I mean, you know, and this is, of course, in a time when we're told everyone's fighting each other and there's wars and everything. So that's what you would do. You would get your enemies' architecture and just start building it in your own city, right? All right, so Parliament House. House of Parliament, yeah, London on the Thames, man-made shorelines. And look at the size of that thing. Oh, look at these three towers. What are they? Interesting. But look at the tech on this thing. It's just jam-packed. Look at it. It's just spires and belfries and these chamber things, you know, whatever they are. Vacuum chambers, maybe, just covered. I mean, look, just at the front here, look at the amount of spires there are. And they've all got little domes and things on them. I mean, imagine just manufacturing and fitting just these domey bits. I mean, apart from building that whole building, it's, you know, windows into the ground, of course, just ridiculous. I mean, just ridiculous. And this, I believe, is Big Ben. I think that's right, because there's Big Ben and the tower clock. So I think this is Big Ben because it's on the water. And here we have the Tower Bridge. Look at the size of this boat. And you can get a bit of perspective to the size of this bridge and just these bases. Look at the amount of materials that would have had to go in to build these, you know, without mentioning what's on top. And how did they build them into a river? Because we're told this is a river, right? A natural river. How did they build them in? And this next photo is the same photo, basically. Check out down here again, all these spires. And of course, I mean, this is a building, I'm not sure if it's a house or whatever. Look at the inside of this arch too, completely covered in, you know, artwork and facading. But yeah, I don't know, is this a house maybe? Some kind of building. And look at the roof. Look at all that tech. And over here, even on the bridge, of course, this is cast iron, the old world cast iron. And I mean, look at these beams, right? Look at the size of that beam. How did they construct that, cast it, move it, you know, from the factory to here and then put it into place in the early 1900s with horse and cart? Because as you can see, these are horse and carts. How did they move, you know, just this one bit, you know, let alone the rest of the bridge? And these, okay, so the story, you know, again, right, how do they build them into a river? The story they tell us is they had something called the bell, which is basically, you know, a bell-shaped thing, like a big dome, and they sunk it in the water, and then they pumped the water out of it. And then workmen would go into this bell, you know, but there was no water, and they built this. Apparently, you know, a few problems with that story. They don't talk about how they got in and out of the bell. And, you know, even if they did have a little airlock, How are they getting all the masonry in there to build with, the cement, all the stuff, all the tools and everything? And then even once you've done that and you've got enough people in there and materials to build this, and imagine, not realistically, how big would this bell have to be? Because this has to be built in one section, right? But then there's no light in this bell, there's no portable electric lights, or back in 1900. So we're talking gas flames that eats oxygen. So this is the thing, right? As soon as they get light, they start burning the oxygen. Ridiculous. Doesn't work. What would work is if this is a man-made canal and it was built first, and this bridge was built, and then it was filled with water. This is a good shot. Another one, still in London, towers everywhere, buildings straight into the water, everything, right? And of course, everyone's wearing the same clothes. This guy's looking pretty confused. Everyone, all the men in black suits, ties, and bowler hats, apart from the police. And he looks rather non-English. And the top hat, the controllers have the top hats and the tails. And of course, this is 1900. If you go back to, late 1700s, the fashion's completely different. It's so much more ornate. It's colorful. It's just ridiculously artistic. And then, this is the tech of the day, wooden wheels. These are just poles. These are unmachined. These haven't been through a factory. They haven't been made into beams, just poles. And this is what they're working with, right? And we're told these people built this. And that's the crux of this main sort of argument, I guess, with history, is the juxtaposition of this. These are the people. These are their tools. This is what they got to work with, and they were told they're building these. It just doesn't make sense. They couldn't. Look at this bridge. There's no way they could even build the bridge. Again, still, London, Hyde Park Corner. And this is just, again, a good picture to show you. Unpaved roads, dirt, horse and cart, and look at all these buildings. These two straight out of, Italy and Greece, and butting straight up against this, right? Which isn't, but it's still got all the arches and porticos, but that's not Greco-Romano. But, it's right next to each other. So these are all just different functions. They're not from different cultures, and it's not because they were copying architecture. Up here we have the urns. We see these urns everywhere. Still not sure what they're for. And here's our nice big spire. And a light in the middle of the road. You see this quite a bit, things just in the middle of the road. Sometimes they're obelisks or columns, fountains. This time we have a light. We've got our pillars around it. Again, with the balls, is this, self-powering, right? It's got all the tech there, so it just works by itself. Don't have to do anything. Don't have to climb up there every night with a lighter and light the candles or the gas like we're told. It's all silly. Still London, I believe. Whitehall. Got the protectors, right? The protector of the parasite here and here, because they always need their protection, right? Because if the public knew what they were really doing, and that's why they need to steal all these buildings and get all their police force and their armies. It's just to protect themselves, because they know what would happen to them if people knew. And here we have a controller standing out there, everyone cruising by. Again, all the same clothes, old world ironwork, this black wrought iron we see everywhere. Of course, domes, belfries, all the rest of it. This is Cheapside, London. These are called omnibuses. They're just carriages basically, but they're double decker. So fairly cool. And look, you know, look, right, all the controllers up here in their top hats looking down on everyone. Here's another top hat, and then see the normal people that don't have the top, they have the bowler hats, but all in black. And these sometimes, what are these called? Like corn hats or something. You see these a lot. That traveling salesman from The Simpsons wears one. But you do that, they pop in as well, that kind of hat. But you know, why such, you know, conformity in the fashion? Like, did it all come from one place? Did they literally find warehouses full of clothes and that's why everyone's wearing the same stuff? And if so, why are the buildings so big? Who are the clothes for? I mean, it's, you know, when you look at this, it just looks so much like literally like an introduced, you know, like we say, introduced population. But then when you start to consider where did they make all the clothes for these people and things like this? You know, this is a big effort. You know, this is, it's much bigger than most of us are conceiving, I think, when you look at what really had to go in to do this. And that's without digging everything out of the mud and all the trains and refacading everything. You know, like this, right? They whack a couple of signs on, clearly retrofitted, and then they say, no, see, this is, you know, this society's building. We built it because, look, it's got a sign on it. Here we go again. You know, same thing, right? Greco-Romano architecture next to different styles, all these different cultural styles all the way down each side of the street. So it just shows you it was one civilization. That's what we're looking at. And completely built out in 1900. Completely. But no roads and all done with horse and cart. That's Regent Street. Piccadilly Circus. Is it? Yep, Piccadilly Circus and Coventry Street. Look at this fountain. Look at, is he standing in the fountain? What are you doing? Is that a policeman? Or maybe he's standing in there saying, you cannot stand in this fountain. I mean, but how huge is that, right? And look, Cupid up the top. Horse and cart. Massively oversized lamps, lights, right? Where's the power source? Another one here. So under the road, you know, if these are electric, where's all the wiring? And these bollards, these are old world, these are everywhere. And I mean, look at this, just old world, right? Portals, new facading. Of course, these are flagpoles. Just a random castle in the background. I mean, and look at the amount of lights. They were everywhere. What was running them all? You know, when you look at the amount, even in 1900, there's no way they could have got an electrical grid, you know, set up to run just all the lights, let alone, you know, inside the buildings. You know, it's just impossible. They didn't have enough time because, you know, electricity, usable electricity is like 20 years old or something at this point. And that was in the US. This is, you know, in Europe. So just nothing fits together, right? When we look at his story. And this, what do we got here? Trafalgar Square. So I've heard of that. These are all from Monopoly. Never been there, but I've heard them from Monopoly. Here's another omnibus. Pretty cool. Controller in the top hat. This guy must be a special controller. Oh, he's got a grey hat. Horse-drawn carts, wooden wheels, lights. And these buildings, belfries, domes, and this. What's the point of this? Clearly that's a column just like this is. It's exactly the same. So why is it standing up there and why is it so big and how in the 1900s, even if they could construct it? Because this one doesn't look like it's got, oh, actually it does. does have joins. So how did they put this up in the 1900s? Because you can see this first layer of the base is taller than the people. So this is, 6, 7 foot, just this bit. So imagine how high this is. And then once they built it, how did they get this on the top? And then even if they did all that, why? Why? And why so big? Like, what's the point? Doesn't make sense unless it had a use, because there's so much effort. I mean, what to say, look, we just erected a pillar. And here we have the Crystal Palace. Now, so we've got a date here. Crystal Palace, no. So around 1900s, this would have to be, what we're told is the second Crystal Palace. The first one was 1851. It was built 1850, they say, for the 1851 World's Fair in London. And then the story is that they moved it, I think in the 1880s, around there, to a new location. And this is supposed to be the new one. And the new one had towers. The original one didn't. But this is still, look at the base here. Look at this. I mean, it goes out of the picture. It's literally, this thing spans the whole picture almost. And now the original Crystal Palace had a train station under it. And I mean, this looks fairly similar, so even if they could, I mean, look at the size of this, even if they could deconstruct it and reconstruct it, who built the platform, the base, the foundation down here? And look at the amount of these urns, these bowl things everywhere. And you can imagine the size of them, how big they would be. Like, here's a person. So, these are fairly big, fully grown trees, right? But they've they would have moved this, they say, built it, like 20 years earlier, 20 years, I guess, maybe. These trees look like they're growing up on the upper deck. So yeah, what do you think, right? Could someone take this down, or people take it down and move it? And of course, they say that this was all designed and designed basically, and the whole idea came from, was it Paxton, Joseph Paxton, I think, who was like, a 20-something-year-old gardener who decided to build a greenhouse and built basically the biggest and best greenhouse ever built that we know of, botanical gardens in England, and then designed this for the World's Fair. And they went, yep, let's build it. And it was just designed perfectly, right? So perfectly that they could build it and then take it apart, move it, and put it back together. And these are the stories we get, unexplained architecture has to be built by an unexplained architect, right? And an unexplained story. Edinburgh. So Scotland. We are in Scotland. And I mean, look at this build out. I mean, this is just like one massive castle. Look at this. Energy station, anyone? Of course, castle up on the hill, disappearing into the hill, as we see everywhere. I mean, look at this. All these domes and cathedrals. And of course, Scotland, or used to be known as Scotia. Scotia, that's where the tin mines were. I used to send people to the tin mines, and that's where we get that phrase, I'll send you to the mines. Came from a long time ago. Look at this building. Wow. And of course, right, that could be the capital building in any city in the world. And of course, all based off Rome. Look at this. I mean, wow. And again, just built out wall to wall. Now, not that many people on the street. Look at this. Looks like it's dirt roads, and they've just literally cleared the tram tracks. I'm not sure why they got these bows in them, but that's what it looks like, doesn't it? It's just dug out just the tracks. But no people. I mean, very, very few people for a build out of this size. Are all these buildings empty? Here we go. So probably still in Scotland, are we? Fourth bridge. So I'm not sure whereabouts it is. Span 1,700 feet. So what's that? That is about, oh gosh, 500-600 meters, I think. Is that right? It's got to be bigger than that. This thing's huge. Look at the size of this boat. And again, just look at this one piece here, this short piece of iron. It's longer than this boat. And I mean, it's not that far off the width of it either. Now, even if they could manufacture this, how did they place it there? How did they move it to here to get it there? And that's not talking about, look at the size of this. And the amount of iron, where are all the foundries, who was making all this and how are they transporting it and placing it? And again, you know, the foundations, how did they build them? And this is a train track as well. The amount of iron in this bridge is ridiculous. And how are they manufacturing pieces this big? It's ridiculous. So I'm assuming we're still in Scotland. No, St. Paul's from the Thames. I'm not sure. Does the Thames run in to Scotland? Let me know in the comments. But we're in the UK. And look at that, you know. You can put this in the Vatican. You know, you could literally send someone that picture and go, oh, look, it's the Vatican. And they'd believe you. You know, the big ball on top, of course, you know, all the usual features. Some more twin towers, right? Twin towers, twin poles, everywhere. Red brick arches built straight into this man-made canal. I mean, these are pretty big boats, but just wooden. Here we go. He's one of the sailors. Oh, look at this. So he's got some bricks. He's been collecting the red bricks, right? That are probably everywhere. But look at this. This is wood. Just a cheap, easy-made wooden. It's not even really a wheelbarrow. It's just a platform with a wheel. I guess that's what wheelbarrows were. But look at this wheel. This is iron. And this looks like to me, it looks like a component from an old world machine. Just the look of it. See how, you know, the bits at the bottom are slightly curved. You just see this look a lot. You know, so he's probably found this lying around, you know, like he found his bricks. Just use it for his wheel. This is Oban from Southwest, showing railway station and new pier. So again, I think we're probably in Scotland. You know, just old world buildings everywhere. You know, look at the land levels. And again, you know, the trains, right? Where's all the factories making these train tracks, let alone the trains? But I mean, look at this. It's just that looks like, you know, an old world village, right? Old world small city. This, of course, is all retro. This is all wood. You know, this little dock thing they've whacked together. But this, no, this is old world. And you can just see how well they were setting things out and all built, you know, so everyone had a nice view of the water and access. And of course, got buildings up at the back here going to the hills. And look at this plateau. That's quite interesting. This building here, right, going straight into it, and something popping out the top, and a wall. So I wonder what that's the remains of. Could have been the star. Who knows? But yeah, old world. Even out there, is that another bit of a castle? A Windsor Castle from the Thames. The Windsors, right? Have a look at that. I'm not sure the date on Windsor Castle, haven't looked into it, but I'm guessing they're going to be saying, you know, I mean, Windsor Castle, they're probably going to be saying, you know, it was built from like the year 1000, 1100, you know, to the year 1700. They kept adding on to it and all this kind of stuff. And when you look at a picture like this, it kind of looks like that. But when you start, when you look and think about the engineering and the architecture and how easy it, would be to add on with when everything is, clearly the same materials, it all fits perfectly. It all looks good. It doesn't look, even though there's a lot of it, it doesn't look like that things are added on. This is all, I would say, built in one go. Look at the size of this tower thing. Antiquitech, massively oversized cathedral, again, twin poles, right? Twin pillars. Boaz and Joachim. And massive castle walls, what we're told are castle walls with windows in them, because that's what you do to a wall that's for defense. You put windows in it. Gives you better defenses. And then you build all the houses outside the wall. And of course, they'll say these were built afterwards, and they may have been, but it's a silly picture, isn't it, really? But I mean, look at that castle. That's ridiculous. Built by horse and cart, hammer and chisel. Okay, this is St. George Landing, Liverpool, Beatles country, Liverpudlians. I mean, again, this iron thing, right? Look at the size of these chains. And look how many there are. Where was all this coming? Because this was all being built apparently at the same time as the trains and the train tracks and the trams and the tram track, everything, right? Where was it all being made? And this is like some kind of ferry and smokestack, right? Steam power. So why does it have a mast? And also look at how they're holding this steam stack up, right? Just with bits of rope. So, that looks like it could be retrofitting to me. What do you think? Because we've got these pictures, right, of these boats with masts. And at the top they have like balls and no sails. So are these retrofitted? Because again, right, I mean, look at this one. Smokestacks. But why has it got masts? And what are all these balls? Look at them all. So is this retrofitting? They couldn't get the old tech to work, couldn't work it out. So they just put, coal burners in there basically and just turn everything into steamers. Because this is what I think with trains as well. I don't think they were made to run on coal. And of course, I'm doing a series on trains, so check that out if you haven't already. That's on Autodidactic 2 channel. And again, Greenwich Hospital from the Thames. What we're told is Middle Eastern or Islamic kind of sail or boats in front of Greco-Romano. What we're told is Greco-Romano buildings going straight into the man-made canal, which we're told is a river. So everything's just been changed. Look at the size of this thing. Again, and how often do we see this, right? This bit, you just have buildings and they just have these, doorways with the columns and the portico, always built the same. So what's that got to, I think everything had a function and a form like this. Okay, now here we are, west front of Westminster Abbey. And look what we have again, right? Bricks. Now they look like large bricks. They look bigger than the normal red bricks, but not the big block work that we see, which is looking like it could be facading. These balls on these bollards, right? What are these? Are these again part of the grid? They used to be everywhere. You still see them everywhere. And these balls like this, they make them now out of concrete, sell them at garden centres, paint them white, everywhere. They're just emulating the old world, but they don't know what they mean. We don't either, really. We're theorising. They're full of mercury. And you have a wire running through it and you connect it up to an antenna and it amplifies the signal. I mean, look at the front of this thing. And again, right, twin poles. equals poles, right? Magnets, positive, negative, electrical charge, EM, all that stuff. But, you know, built by people who can't pave roads. All right, now this is Moscow, la-di-da-di-da-da-da. I mean, look, I mean, again, right? It's not a river, this is a man-made canal. Looks like the water level sunk here again, and, you know, man-made canal, right? All this work just in this frame, and, you know, just little wooden boats and this pier. It's just literally planks of wood, you know, attached together to get out to here. And this tiny little wooden shack, horse and cart. But no, they built all this, all right? But it looks like the water level used to be higher, and these, you know, would have been more like, you know, where you could just walk down and load up your boat, get in your boat, go swimming, whatever. So it looks like the water level's dropped a bit. And of course, this is a construction photo, guys. As you can see, they are building this. Oh, and they're building this as well. So there you go. They did build it all. We were wrong. Is that a bell? I think there's a bell in there. So all these, you know, we're theorizing were full of bells, and the bells were like the starter, you know, the resonator, the on switch, onion domes everywhere. But of course, this is, you know, this scaffolding, which, you know, again, right, it's just made from bits of wood, you know, but they can build these buildings. They're just re-facading, taking off the old facade and recovering it, or putting their own symbolism on it. And look at these generators. They would have been sucking in a lot of energy. I mean, look at the build out. Just, I mean, that's ridiculous. Seriously. Here's another angle. I mean, again, look how oversized everything is. What is this tower? A deck? Another deck? Is this, you know, something to do with airships? Or is it a water tower? Or is it something completely different? Look at this fractal stacking. Look at that. Double-headed eagle on the top, which is a symbol of Tartaria. You know, just domes and these, I mean, not enough people, right? Hardly any people, you know, for just this building. Where are all the people? But tiny people with no tools. And you can see a bit of, you know, mud flood evidence, right? At the edge of the canal here. And again, a couple of bits of wood for their little pier. And is this a boat? It's a very overstacked boat. And what's it full of? What are they? They've been dredging this canal, maybe? I mean, that's, I don't know. If that's a boat, I don't know how it's floating. And wintertime in Moscow. And look at all the tech. And of course, you know, Moscow is, you know, famous for these buildings and the onion domes and the basilicas. Here's a better shot of all their factories. Actually, I think we saw this before, didn't we? I mean, look at this build out. What's, you know, the tunnel through it. I mean, there was just, you know, nothing was spared. I just said everything done to perfection, basically. And here we have another oversized building. Oversized columns, bollards, whatever. I mean, this thing's, well, maybe that's a fountain. Oh, yeah, it probably is. It's got these line faces, which, you know, how many fountains have line faces with, you know, as spouts? Old world ironwork, and everyone wearing black, and oversized buildings. And of course, you know, not enough people. The population doesn't look big enough to require a building like this. And this is probably a parliamentary building. All right. So they need a building this big to fill up with people to tell you what to do. But where's the population? So there you go, guys. A bit of a look at the world in the 1900s, or circa 1900s. I think a couple of these pictures, they were dated sort of 1880s. But yeah, I mean, look at this. This was the old world. And of course, again, right, retrofitting these trams, pulling them with horses, but they laid all the tracks, right? They made all the tracks and laid them just so why? That restricts the movement. If this was on wheels, it could go anywhere. So tracks only make sense if these are automated, and so they can just run on themselves. People jump on and jump off. And of course, that was all when it was free as well. And this is where they got their free energy. So yeah, the world was much different. The story they tell us is clearly just his story, because there is such a juxtaposition between the people we see and their technology and the infrastructure and the architecture that is all around. And we'll close on this picture here, which I had to show you because the bells, right? Apart from the fact that they're clearly refacading here, you can see all the rubble. Put ladders up the side here to rip everything off. You can see, right, there's two nice clamshells facading left here. They haven't quite got to them, and everything else, they've ripped it all off. Changed the look of it. This, look, they've bricked up this bottom one here. Stairs up to the top. So they're doing a full refacade here. These have been bricked in. And this is what they did. They went around and they refacaded everything. And like I said before, when you start thinking about the amount of work that took, I mean, what are we dealing with here? Look at the size of this bell. How did they make that? Of course they didn't, but they're telling us they did. And how did they get up there and hang it? All right, imagine what would have to be above it to support that weight. And that's just a little one. All right, look at this. Again, how did they build that? Look at this spire. I mean, everything oversized, just a ridiculous story. So thank you for spending some time with me. I hope you liked that one, a little wander. I went a bit longer than I thought it would, but some pretty interesting, cool pics there, and just showing you this is what the world was 120 or so years ago. Much different, people looking much different to today's population. Lost people, lost tiny people in an oversized world using tech that they clearly don't understand. And have no, affiliation with. So yeah, many questions. And of course, questions are always better than answers. And so thank you again for spending some time with me. Thank you all, everyone who does support this channel and my work. I really, really appreciate it. And definitely, please share this out. Make sure you subscribe, hit the bell, hit the like button. Let's get all that stuff done. Because, I really want to start pushing this channel forward. I'm almost at 50,000 subscribers. So thank you again. Love you all. Hello to all the new subs. But yeah, with shadow banning, I've been growing pretty slowly, but constantly. But, 2022, right? It's time for us to stand up and to put out the real information and to just stop playing this silly game that they play. And so, yeah, if you could share this around, it would definitely help me. Also liking, all that kind of stuff, help the algorithms up. And of course, with anyone else in this topic, get the info out there, share it around, post it on social media. Let's get the world, the world's population really understanding what has gone on here, because clearly we need to fix more than just the last couple of years. And a big thank you again to everyone who supports me on my Patreon and through PayPal. I really do appreciate you all. And if you would like to help out, there are links below in the description, and also links from my social media, all that kind of stuff, Telegram channel. Yeah, so join all those and check them out. Become part of the solution, right? Part of the group that's going forward and fixing the world. So thanks again for spending some time with me. Love you all. Stay awesome. And I'll talk to you all on the next upload. Bye for now.